So, is it good or is it bad? That's an open question. I think it's a rather funny piece of music actually, and I know that the two girls, they were pretty happy about it. But, as you can see, they are choosing all these different loops and sounds, and they are combining these loops and sounds in new ways. So just to summarize, the option, the choice, is a part of any creative process, but plays an essential role when it comes to creativity in the context of this type of technology. But which type of music is created when you use these methods? Well, today in music, it's quite normal to compose music in this way. Often a pop song or hip hop song consists of different samples and pieces of music from other records. So, for instance, a beat from a drum machine combined with samples from other records, a saxophone, a bass line, a scream, or something like that. And I want you now to listen to a very simple example of this type of music. Perhaps many of you know the big Queen hit from the 80s, Another One Bites the Dust. Well, a lot of rappers have used this song in combination with rap. And now I want you to listen to one of those rappers. It's Jay-Z. So we are going to listen to Jay-Z and Queen in combination. Let's listen to the song.
I'm the goddamn reason you in VIP. CEO, you don't have to CID. I'm young, wild, and strapped like G.I. Blah! We ain't got nothing to worry about. Whoop ass, let security carry 'em out. Watch out for the medallion, my diamonds are reckless. Feels like a midget is hanging from my necklace. I pulled up with 1,000,000 trucks, looking, smelling, feeling like $1,000,000. Past the bottles, the heat is on. We in a huddle, all smoking.
So, as you can hear, we got a very simple structure. Basically, we only got two layers. We got the Queen song, Another One Bites the Dust, and on top of it, we got the rap. So we got two layers. Well, in contemporary music, it's actually often quite difficult to identify all the different layers involved. So here we get a very complex structure with a lot of layers involved. For instance, like this. As you can see, this is very complex. But who is really the creator of this type of music? Is it Jay-Z or is it Queen, for instance? Well, that's a difficult question. And one way to answer it is to argue that all these composers are part of a network, as you can see here. So, all these composers in the network, they are borrowing and stealing musical material from each other. So, the composer here is borrowing musical material from all the others. And what he is making, what he's producing, is maybe being recycled by the other composers in the network. So a piece of music is not created only by one individual. There are many creators spread out in the network. So there is not only one creator, there are many creators. The little child can make music as an individual, but is still part of a network, and the little child is borrowing musical material from this network. Another point I like to make regarding creativity and technology is the phenomenon someone called a listener composer. So what is exactly a listener composer? Well, a DJ could be a good example. From the 70s and up to today, the DJ has become a big star. So today the DJ is playing an important part of the music community. Just look at this picture here and see how the audience worships him. But isn't the DJ only reproducing other people's records? Well, on the one hand, the answer is yes, he is only reproducing other people's records. On the other hand, the answer is no, because he's not really only reproducing other people's records. He's listening to music, he's choosing musical material, and he's combining this musical material in new ways. He is what you can call a listener composer. When the little child is selecting her favorite songs and plays these songs for her friends or for her mother and father, she's also a kind of a listener composer. So, we end up with two important questions regarding creativity, children, and technology. And the first question is it creative? Is it original, just putting things together? Well, in order to answer that question, it might be fruitful to draw attention to the choice we discussed before. As earlier mentioned, in order to avoid chaos, we often reduce the number of options. But is there any room for creativity if we only give the child very few options? Say, we only give the child 2 Lego bricks. You can put them together like this, or like this. But you got very limited options. The same applies to the music software Band. You can turn on the instruments and you can turn off the instruments. But is it creativity? That's an open question. The second question that we end up with is, who is the creative individual? If the creative product is the result of the work of many creators spread out in the network, well, we may have to change our conception of a composer. In a traditional view, a composer creates something from scratch, more or less in his own mind. We may have to consider if the composer is also part of a creative network. And it can be difficult, it can be quite difficult actually, to identify who is exactly the central figure. Anyway, the answer to these questions also depends on how creativity is defined, and that is a topic I like to address in my next lecture. For further reading on today's subject, I will recommend these books and articles.